Well, I'm glad we got several young people here tonight because my lesson is going to be directed more to them than the older people. And the reason is because when you're younger, sometimes you can farm them a little bit. When they get older, it's too late. But anyway, as I said, it kind of farm it to the younger people. I hope we all get something out of this. I like to bring up topics that I think that I've seen these things happen over the years. I've got probably age on most everybody out there, so I've seen a lot of things happen. So I'm going to use my experience and bring up some topics and before you tonight. As I said, tonight I would like to look and like to talk about something that I have observed in my lifetime. And that is, it seems people have gotten a lot worse about responsibility. Nobody wants to take responsibility, seems like, anymore. And the thing that I'm talking about a little bit tonight is nobody wants to take responsibility for things that they do or they don't do. And you know what this leads to? It leads to what my lesson's about. This leads to excuse making. Young people, don't get in the habit of making excuses. McKinley, did you hear that? Yeah, I think he got it. All right. Tonight, I would like to talk about excuses, as I said. And I personally dislike excuses. I would rather that someone just not say anything as to when I ask them why they did or didn't do something or other. They come up with all kinds of excuses. And that's just, I just don't like that. I just can't get over that. And so I've got a couple of little things that I'd like for you to remember if you can. And it is exactly what I've learned about excuses. Number one, a man who is good at making excuses never gets good at anything else. Number two, excuses only devalue and the credibility of the one making them. Got to keep that in mind as we go through this lesson. I looked up and what an excuse really is. In Vines it says it's a pretense or to speak oneself off, get himself off, in other words, from what he did. Webster says it's to justify or a defense of some action taking. But if I was to define an excuse, this would be the way I would define it. I'd define excuse as a story or a lie to cover up the real reason for doing or not doing something that they should have done. We all make excuses, and we hear them all the time. And we get to where that, we don't pay much attention to people making excuses because it's just out there all the time. And as to my opinion, it gets worse than all the time. Well, here is some excuses that you may have heard. Number one, it's too hard. Number two, I don't have the time. Talked about that a little bit last Sunday. You know what? And what we decided last Sunday, we have time to do the things we really want to do. So that's not an excuse. Number three, someone made me do it. Well, if some of you are old as I am, back in the 60s and 70s, there was a comedian and he used this phrase, the devil made me do it. Number four, I don't have the talent or the ability. To me, these excuses are just a cop-out. We need to man up and work at it. For some people, it's a lot easier to come up with an excuse than to sit down and do the work. So what is wrong with making excuses? Well, I have about 3 things here I'd like to look at. But again, we're going to go back to the lesson learned. It says, a man that is good at making excuses never gets good at anything else. This means if it becomes easier to make excuses why I can't do different things, then I will never apply myself and really work at anything. So number 1 would be, I would say, it keeps one from achieving their goals or what they could be. Number 2, it promotes laziness. Way too many, just simply easier for them to make some excuse than to do the work. Proverbs 22 says, a slothful man saith, there is a lion without, I shall be slain in the street. Number 3, it shows a lack of respect for someone's intelligence. And think about that. In other words, you're saying that they are so dumb, I can tell them anything, and they're going to believe it. Well, just like parents can see through their children's excuses, it's not that hard to see a grown-up's excuse either. You know, excuses are not something new. Excuses have been from the beginning of time. When we look in Genesis 3 and 12, Adam's excuse was, my wife made me do it. And then he went on to say, and you gave her to me. Also, in 1 Samuel 15:15, Saul, he blamed it on the people. And we see a lot of others in the Bible, but the other one I want to look at because of time is found in Luke 14, starting with 16. Then said he unto him, a certain man made a great supper and bid many, and sent his servants at supper time to say unto them that were bidden, come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must need go and see it. I pray thee, have me excused. Another one said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. Another one said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that the servant came and showed the Lord these things, which the master of the house, being angry, said unto the servant, go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in the hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done, and thou hast commanded, yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and the hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of these men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. We see there that he could see through those excuses, the Lord could, and they weren't going to take of the supper, or it really lines up to be heaven. So what will our excuse be? When we come before the Lord and we haven't put our Lord on in baptism, or we have lost our faith and forsook the Christian life, I sure wouldn't want to try to make an excuse as to why I didn't believe his Son or keep his commandments. So young people, don't get in the habit of making excuses. It just gets built up and gets worse. At this time, if there's anyone that needs the prayers of the church or put on their Lord in baptism, we'd ask you to come as we stand and sing.
Satisfied with just the college below.